Bad first period, bad second period, pretty good third period, power play woes, defensive lapses, goaltending issues. But is it as bad as people are making it out to be? We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Bucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential me member, Trey Matthews. This game against the Washington Capitals, in which the New Jersey Devils came out on the losing end by a score of 4-2. Oof, that's all I can say. So in today's episode, in the first segment, we're going to highlight some key areas of concern for the Devils and also what ultimately costed them the game, because they made one hell of a comeback in period 3, but it was too little, too late. And if I've said it once, I said it 1,000 times on this show, and it's not going to be the last time I say it. But you cannot trail for a majority of the game, especially being down by 3 goals, try to mount a comeback, and expect to come out on the winning end. Hypothetically, everything would have to go perfectly for you. And as a result, the Devils, they just waited too little, too late, and the Capitals came out on the winning end and got a 200-foot empty netter. And I'm sure, like, if that were to happen again, it wouldn't result in that. But still, I'm rambling on a little bit. But yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about in segment 1. And also, courtesy of our friend Jase Medical of New Jersey Hockey Now, he put out his famous deserve to win-o-meter after the game, and maybe the game wasn't as bad as people are making it out to be. Then in the second segment, usually for a loss, I don't do my 3 stars of the game because ultimately it would mostly just fall into the favor of the opponent. And today's episode is going to be no exception. However, I want to highlight some players that I think deserve some recognition despite the Devils coming out on the losing end, especially Alexander Holtz, because I think Holtz deserves some more ice time, but I don't think Lindy Ruff is setting him up into the best atmosphere to succeed. And then in the third and final segment, like I do with every post-game recap, I will compare the stats and give the Devils a letter grade. So let's start off with the deserve to win-o-meter, courtesy of Jase Medical. So like I said, after every game, Jase Medical puts out the deserve to win-o-meter. This is the first time that I'm discussing it this season. So for any of you who are unfamiliar with it, basically the deserve to win-o-meter does a lot of simulations of a specific hockey game through advanced analytics and certain areas of the game. And it's basically sort of like a video game in a sense, like for lack of a better term, where you just see like, would the Devils come out on the winning end more times than not or on the losing end? Like, did they actually deserve to lose the game? And in this matchup against the Capitals, the deserve to win-o-meter fell into the favor of the Devils at 63.7% compared to the Capitals is 36.3%. So the Capitals win 36.3% of the time after 837 game simulations. So obviously a lot of people have their various opinions post-game. I certainly have my fair share of opinions, but when I think about this logically, I think it does make some sort of sense because the Devils, they let up 2 soft goals in period 1. In period 2, they had a defensive lapse yet again, and that resulted in an easy goal on Akira Schmid. Then in period 3, they amounted a comeback. They cut the lead to 1, but unfortunately, Jesper Bratt, he could not buy a point. He was so close to tying it in a few aspects. Devils tried feeding him. Timo Meier was trying to stuff it home in front of the net, and he couldn't get his second goal of the game. Basically, the Devils, it was right there for them in period 3, but like I said, the comeback just fell a little bit short. Devils had power play woes for the first time this season, I would presume, and then their defense, we need to talk more about like their defensive execution because I described it in the last episode that there's so many holes in their defensive execution that you could use it to drain pasta. So let's go back to period 1 in which Vitek Vanacek was the original starter for the Devils. So 10 minutes into the game, Vitek Vanacek allowed 2 soft goals. So He allowed one to Obey Kubel, which was his first goal of the season. He was straight from the AHL. That came from the bench area. Basically, it's 1-0 Capitals halfway through period number 1. Okay, no big deal. Nothing to write home about. But I believe about 15 seconds later, Malestein, he got another goal added onto the scoreboard for the Capitals in sort of the same spot. So what had happened was that Luke was in a defensive position. He was trying to poke check the puck away, came up empty, and it fooled Vanacek in a sense. So Malestein was able to score right past him, and it's 2-0 early in favor of the Capitals. Now, after that, Lindy Ruff did not hesitate. He pulled Vanacek straight from the game, and coming in relief was Akira Schmid. Now, Ken Danico on air says that he doesn't really put the blame on Vitek Vanacek because for the first goal, I guess you could consider it a fluke goal. And then the second goal that was led up, once again, Luke Hughes trying to poke check the puck away, and it fooled Vanacek in a sense because I guess he lost sight of it. But Lindy Ruff had a different perspective post-game. He said from his perspective, Vanacek just didn't look all that sharp. And I lean into the favor of Lindy Ruff because, look, I've been defending the goalies the last few weeks. I've been saying like the defense in front of them hasn't been all that good. It hasn't been all that effective. But still, as a goalie, you still need to make those grade A saves. And more times than not, I believe I've seen Vanacek make saves like that. And I think he should have honestly been capable of making some of those saves. Now, I'm not trying to let the defense off the hook. It's been atrocious, but still, it's a two-way street. So those are two soft goals that the Devils let up early in period 1. So they're already behind a pretty decent hole, but there's still plenty of game left. So you think the Devils can try to kick it into a new gear and come out more aggressive, right? Wrong. In period 2, it was more or less the same. Now, look, I know that the Devils are missing Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes, but the thing is like, that's no excuse to play somewhat lazy with the puck, because the one thing I realized from my perspective is that the Devils were really sloppy with the puck in period 1, and it leaked over to period 2. It just seemed like they could not set up shop. They could not get into an offensive rhythm. And if we're being honest, it took them a while before they started to challenge Lindgren. Now, they did get a few good looks here and there, but more times than not, Lindgren was basically just waltzing his way to an easy win because the Devils weren't really putting that much pressure on the Capitals. Now, once again, I know that the top two centermen in Hughes and Hischier are out, but that's no excuse to play that lackadaisical. And Lindy Ruff acknowledged post-game that with the absence of Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, that their offensive dynamic is not the same, so they're trying to figure it out. But that was just hard to watch at times. So honestly, that those were some of the worst periods I've seen from the Devils this season, and that's saying something against this Capitals team too. And the schedule's not going to get that much easier for the Devils, so they really got to try to kick it into new gear. Now, period 3, it's different. So the urgency shifts, and the Devils score 2 unanswered goals, and there's plenty of time remaining. But once again, why did it take them so long to try to play with some sort of sense of urgency? Like, what was the difference maker? Why couldn't they have done that in period 2? Because they were peppering Lindgren during the third period. Their offensive attacks looked somewhat scary, and that was showing the shades of what I've been seeing from the Devils the first few weeks in terms of their offensive execution, which is they're getting the good looks, and if they don't score, you're somewhat surprised because there have been a few vulnerable rebounding chances and a few wide open net opportunities for the Devils to score. Unfortunately, they weren't able to capitalize on it, and, stuff happens. But at the same time, it's just like, why this late? Because the one thing that the MSG telecast was hammering home, it doesn't matter if it was Bill Spalding or Ken Danico, it doesn't matter if it was Erica Walker or Bryce Salvador. Basically, it was very evident that they were all in agreement. It was completely uniform that the Devils have to play the full 60 if they want to come out on the winning end. So you cannot have that shaky first period performance, that shaky period 2 performance, and also for your first 3 power plays, you don't generate a single shot. You're starting to make Biz seem like a genius. What he said a couple days ago when he said like, without this red hot power play, the Devils are just a 500 team, and I've been sipping the Kool-Aid. I was fooled. I was duped. You're starting to make that guy look like a genius. Just saying. And I'm not saying he is. I just want to put that out there. But I wanted the Devils to try to prove Biz and other people wrong, like, they're capable of being a good team. But unfortunately, in this game against the Capitals, you can't just let up those soft goals. You can't just play one good period and expect to come out on the winning end. Teams are starting to prepare for you a lot better because you're no longer the underdog. And with Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier out, and also some other players gunning to take y'all out, it's not going to get any easier. So for the first time this season, the Devils, they just had power play woes. And unfortunately, they went 0 for 4 in that category. And the defense, it was just no better, because on that goal that they led up to Kuznetsov, what had happened, according to Bryce Salvador, was that since Kevin Ball and Brendan Smith are both left-handed defensemen, they got lost in communication and it drifted them out of the play. And as a result, the Capitals go down to the other side of the rink and Kuznetsov is able to score. So he says that tends to happen since they're both left-handed defensemen and they were probably just lost in space of time for a split second because they just didn't know where each other were supposed to be positioned. That's one of the reasons why I said I don't want Brendan Smith and Luke Hughes on the same defensive pairing, because they're both left-handed defensemen. But what do I know? So once again, just a brain fart in period 2 by Smith and also Ball. But I know I ridicule Smith a lot, but I got to say he's pretty decent on the PK, and that's probably why he earns his stride with the Devils, because their PK is not all that impressive. But then again, he is one of the reasons why the Devils go on the PK so often. But ultimately, when looking back at the deserve to win-o-meter, I can understand why it falls into the favor of the Devils, because they were very dominant in period 3. And then the rest of the couple periods, it's just like they just let in a couple soft goals and they had a defensive lapse. And maybe that doesn't tell the whole story of the game. But I guess when you look back as to how the Capitals were able to score, would they do that 9 times out of 10? I would say no. So Lindy Ruff even said that second goal that was let in by Vanacek came from the bench. And that's when he said, you got to come out. We got to make this switch. And I agreed with them wholeheartedly. So we'll talk about some players that caught my eye momentarily and also rate this game. But before we continue, I want to tell you guys about FanDuel, because I want you guys to make some extra money. So score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over and unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Okay, so let's talk about some players that caught my eye for the Devils. Once again, I'm not doing my 3 stars of the game. I'm just analyzing some players that did step up. So in period 3, once again, the Devils were very dominant and they were challenging Lindgren for the first time all evening. So what happened? Well, in period 3, Timo Meier, he was able to score. Where was he? He was on the doorstep. He knocked on the door and he pounded through it. So Michael McLeod, great setup. John Marino, he got his 9th assist as well. He got the secondary assist. The one thing I could say about McLeod is that he has really stepped up big time in the absence of Nico Hischier. And I can't give him enough credit for what he's been able to do in wake of Nico Hischier not being in the lineup for the Devils for a lengthy period of time. But Timo Meier doing what Timo Meier does best, which is just hang in front of the net and just try to finish. And Dawson Mercer must have taken a play out of his playbook, because a few minutes later, he was able to score in front of the net. And that was thanks to Tyler Toffoli and also Akira Schmid, who got the secondary assist. So for Dawson Mercer, I said he was definitely going to be one of the X-factor players in the absence of Jack Hughes, because the thing about Mercer is that he plays with quick speed. And yes, Jack Hughes is a one-of-a-kind player. He cannot be replaced. But at the same time, Mercer, he needs to break out of his funk sooner rather than later. And MSG actually acknowledged that Mercer has been stepping up his game. So when we look at his slot shot attempts, first 9 games, 1.2, 55.6% on net. Last 3 games, 2.81, 75% on net. So Dawson Mercer is taking a play out of Tyler Toffoli and Timo Meier's playbook, which is hang around the slot, hang in front of that doorstep, and good things will happen. So I think Dawson Mercer, for what it's worth, he's been breaking out of his funk just a little bit more, because he got his 2nd goal of the season. And ever since Jack Hughes went down with an injury, Mercer has gotten a couple goals to add to his resume. He needs to generate more assists, and he needs to get that point production up a little bit more. And I think I expected just a tad bit better from him. But the fact that his slot shot attempts are going up a little bit and he's seeing some okay results for the time being, I think it's definitely something that we need to bring into the light. So Dawson Mercer getting his second goal of the season, kudos to him. And now let's talk about Jesper Bratt, who really deserved a point in this game. And I'm not just saying that because he was everywhere, but he just couldn't buy a goal. He had like a wraparound attempt that didn't go in. He had a few assist opportunities that unfortunately his teammates weren't able to finish on. Jesper Bratt was playing with speed. Like, he was playing with a sense of urgency in period 3. And unfortunately, he just couldn't buy a point. So I wanted to give credit where credit is due because Jesper Bratt was just the hustle, heart, and soul in this game for the Devils, in my opinion. So there's a reason why Jesper Bratt has the amount of points that he has to open up the season. And I just need to just highlight him a little bit because if no one else will, I certainly will. So Jesper Bratt, I tip my cap to you because you were showing probably the most hustle of any of your teammates out there against the Capitals. And now let's talk about a controversial subject that a lot of people on Devils Discourse were debating on, and that is Alexander Holtz versus Max Willman. So what had happened was that there was a debate as to whether or not Holtz or Willman would get the start. So there was some speculation that Willman would be put onto the fourth line and Holtz would be a healthy scratch. And basically people were just wondering, like, why is Alexander Holtz not being given the credit that he deserves? Because he's been actually putting up some decent numbers, nothing spectacular, but I just feel like he's not really being given a big enough opportunity because he only saw 7 minutes of ice time in this game. And courtesy of Ryan Novozinski of NJ.com, he actually put out an interesting fact, which was when the Devils were down 3-0, Holtz was still not seeing his minutes increase. And in 13 game appearances, he has 3 goals, 2 assists for a grand total of 5 points. Now, here's the thing. On that fourth line, they need a goal scorer. And Alexander Holtz is that guy. So I don't know why Ruff was contemplating scratching him in the first place, if that was true, if that was the case, because they were both doing pregame warmups. And when the lineups came out, it was resulted in Alexander Holtz getting the start and Max Willman being a healthy scratch. So I really don't get that. I feel like Holtz has been playing with some good speed. He has a quick shot. And of everyone on the fourth line, he definitely provides the offensive punch for that particular line because, yes, he's a former 7th overall pick, but the fact that he's a bottom 6 player now and he's actually contributing somewhat decent, I think that really shows how much of a team player he is. And I don't think that's being shown enough by Lindy Ruff. So as you guys know, going into the season, I had my expectations anywhere from moderate to low for Alexander Holtz. But even I got to give credit to him because he's been playing somewhat decent the last few games. I think he's been playing quite well. So I definitely cannot deny that. I can't deny his improvement as a skater. I can't deny his improvement as getting a good shot off. So I think he definitely deserves some more playing time. And the fact that he only saw 7 minutes in this game when this game was on the verge of being a blowout is just astonishing. So why isn't he playing top 6 type of minutes when the game is 3-0? I think he deserves more of a chance. But my educated guess is that I think in this day and age where the Devils are trying to compete for something, it just leans into the favor of the more established veteran players. And then maybe Holtz is just being groomed for a trade market. I don't really know. We'll discuss it in a future episode. But I definitely see it, guys. Alexander Holtz deserves more PT. He deserves more ice time. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. And I just scratch my head. And I know people have been pestering Lindy Ruff. I know some of my colleagues have been asking Ruff like about his lineup changes or what he plans to do. And usually he's very vague in his answer or he just tries to flip the subject. But there has to be something else going on, right? Or am I just crazy? So that's my thing. Alexander Holtz deserves more ice time. So we'll wrap up this show momentarily, but before we do, I want to tell you guys about eBay Motors. I'm actually a big car guy, so passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And now, let me tell you guys about Sleeper. So I'm in the midst of my fantasy football season, but why not jump into fantasy hockey? So a new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. So Jack Hughes, he could still very much score 50 goals once he returns in a couple weeks. Devils could hoist the Stanley Cup if they get their defense and goaltending together. And you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. So you can also play daily fantasy football, basketball, baseball, college football on Sleeper. All you have to do is pick out studs like Jesper Bratt, Jack Hughes, Timo Meier, Vitek Vanecek, Akira Schmid. Will they record more or less than their Sleeper projections? Things like goals, assists, put the over on Akira Schmid, saves, plus, minus, and more in any given game. So to win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Devils fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. So use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Okay, so like I do with every post-game recap, let's compare the stats and give the Devils a letter grade, and let's get out of here. So shots on goal differential, 27-26 in favor of the Capitals. That's actually quite impressive considering the fact that the Devils were getting demolished in that category for a good chunk of the game, and then they narrowed it. So that third period really saved them, because in period 1, the Capitals had 12 shots compared to the Devils 2. Then in period 2, the Devils were able to outshoot the Capitals 11-8. But the third period was probably their best one, 13-7. So Devils closed that margin, but still, I am astonished that on the first 3 power play attempts, courtesy of Amanda Stein, the Devils were 0 for 3 in shot attempts while being on the man advantage. Yikes. I've never complained about the Devils' power play that much since last season. Oh, if that. Face-off percentage, 50.8% to 49.2% in favor of the Devils. Power play. Capitals were 0 for 4 in their power play opportunities. Devils got 3 interference calls in period 1, and it leaked over into period 2. So, yeah, you got to clean it up a little bit. You can't be testing your opponent and have them go on the power play, because the Devils' PKs, it's starting to improve, but it's not really all that good still. So John Marino, interference. Brendan Smith, interference. Dougie Hamilton, interference in period 1. All 3 defensemen, once again, defense, step the F up, respectfully. I can't cuss on this show. Hits, 27-14 in favor of the Devils. Blocks, 17-13 in favor of the Capitals. So if I had to give this game a letter grade, it's the same issues. Goaltending, not as sharp. Defense, not as sharp. Offensive execution, good for 1 period. Power play, for once, the Devils had power play woes. Unable to capitalize on anything. Deserve to win meter says 60-40, something like that. I'm going to say D+, because this game was unacceptable for the Devils. I get it. If you look at it from a different perspective, maybe they should have changed some certain areas of the game, like letting in 2 soft goals early. That really didn't do them any favors. That defensive lapse by Ball and Smith didn't do them any favors. That period 3, I get that empty netter by Kuznetsov was a 200-foot empty netter, which more times than not, he probably doesn't convert on that, but it still happened. I'm going to have to say D+, because the Devils have not shown me any signs of improvement dating back to their last loss against the Colorado Avalanche. They really got to step it up, because their next game is against the Winnipeg Jets, and the Jets are actually a pretty decent team this year. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, that's where I'm going to stick with a D+, because the Devils just didn't show me any signs of improvement. I know the advanced analytics probably show that they should have maybe come out away victorious, but in this particular simulation, fell into favor of the Capitals. So let me know what you guys think. What did you think about the performance by the Devils? What did you think about their period 3 execution? What's going to happen for the Devils to have a good full 60, not just a good 20? And what did you think about some of the players that stepped up? And what are your thoughts on Alexander Holtz? Leave a comment down below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X Page app at TreyMatt4 and the show's X Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. So continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.